This is St. John, chapter 14, and verse 6. Yahushua saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man come unto the Father but by me. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah Quadash. And double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. In a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect, in the same Spirit, teaching His word and believing His word, the willing that they all continue to endure and be sincere. Shalom to the Akwat Yom, believers of His faith and His truth, and that y'all all continue to endure in sound doctrine and in the same Spirit. Lord willing, the Most have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in the faith. This is a continuation of 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, and we're going to read from verse 7 to 16 in the KJV, and Lord willing, the NLT. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 7, the KJV. But if the ministration of death written and engraven in stones was glorious, so that the children of Israel could not stand fastly behold the face of Moses for the glory of his countenance, which glory was to be done away, how shall not the ministration of the Spirit be rather glorious? For if the ministration of the condemnation be glory, much more doeth the ministration of righteousness exceed in glory. For even that which was made glorious had no glory in this respect, by reason of the glory that excelleth. For if that which is done away was glorious, much more that which remaineth is glorious. Seeing then that we have such hope, we use plainness of speech, and not as Moses, which put a veil over his face, that the children of Israel could not stand fastly look to the end of that which is abolished, but their minds were blinded. For until this day remaineth the same veil, undertaking away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Hamashiach. But even unto this day, when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart. Nevertheless, when it shall turn to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, the veil shall be taken away. Now I'm going to read this in the NLT, but just for edification's sake, when you go into that veil, the veil is a metaphor for spiritual blindness, especially on the 2/3, right? When we see in 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, verse 3. Actually, let me just get it just for edification's sake. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 in the KJV. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. Right? This gospel, this truth, is hidden from those that are lost. Right? Romans 11 and 7, KJV. What then? Israel have not obtained that which they seeketh for, Salaki, which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Even more why I started this lesson off with St. John 14, verse 6, is because only the elect and the true believers is going to come to Yahushai, because he is the way, he is the truth, and he is the light, which the elect on this side is going to believe in Yahushai. They're going to understand that we couldn't fully establish within this veiled wicked body the old covenant. Really, Yahushai was the mediator for the new covenant by his sacrifice, because the sacrifice of the old covenant, we truly didn't benefit because we had to keep doing it. Let alone when we look in the old covenant of being punished or put to death in the old covenant, which if somebody committed adultery, we would see them get stoned to death. But then hours, a day later, a week later, another Jake that just seen his fellow brother or sister get stoned, or child get stoned for committing certain acts, for you to get put to death, went ahead and did it again. And then they did it. So it shows that in that moment, Jake wasn't fearing the Lord just off of those punishments. Job said it in Job, the 9th chapter, verse 32 to 35, is if he had a mediator between the Most High and himself. Right? Let me get that real quick because I'm speaking on it. This is Job 9, verse 32 in the NLT. The Most High is not a mortal man like me, so I cannot argue with him or take him to trial. If only there were a mediator between us, someone who could bring us together. The mediator could make the Most High stop beating me, and I would no longer live in terror of his punishment. Then I could speak to him without fear, but I cannot do that in my own strength. Right? Through the power of Yahushai, we're able not to fear, Yahweh's wrath on this side, right? In the old covenant. Now that doesn't mean the wrath of the Lord is still not going to be put on the earth, but only the 2/3 is going to be dealt in that certain way. Now this is a trial for the elect because they believe they're going to go through the fire, right? The goal is to endure to the end to get life. The goal is not to not be put to death and not benefit that salvation through Yahushai. Right? This was the Lord's plan. So I'm going to go back to 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter. And I'm going to read verse 7 to 16. And then Lord willing, we can bring out some precepts to make more sense of it. So 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 7 in the NLT. The old way with laws etched in stone led to death, though it began with such glory that the people of Israel could not bear to look at Moses' face, for his face shone with the glory of the Most High, even though the brightness was already fading away. Shouldn't we expect far greater glory under the new way? Of course we are, because it's going to be under Yahushai, through Yahushai. It says now that the Rakakwadash is giving life. If the old way, which brings condemnation, was glorious, how much more glorious is the new way, which makes us right with the Most High, right through Yahushai. And you cannot get the Rakakwadash without believing in Hamashiach Yahushai. And this has to be within your heart. This has to be an inward faith, right? It says, in fact, that first glory was not glorious at all compared with the overwhelming glory of the new way. So if the old way, which has been replaced, was glorious, how much more glorious is the new, which remains forever? Since this new way gives us such confidence, we can be very bold. We are not like Moses, who put a veil over his face so the people of Israel could not see the glory, even though it was destined to fade away. Right? That veil is spiritual blindness, right? Because even if we go back into the history, certain Jake couldn't get it. Even when we left Egypt, when we see from Egypt getting to the land, it was only Joshua and Caleb that made it from the land of Egypt to the promised land. The Lord was putting a lot of people to death, put them back in the spirit world. When you go to Psalms 106 verse 7, KJV NOT, it says that some of the Israelites, many of the Israelites wasn't even impressed by the miraculous deeds or miracles that Yahweh done in Egypt. and during the time of the Red Sea, right? That veil was over them. Even in the time when Yahushua came on the earth, right? Pharisees and Sadducees and others that didn't believe, those was the example. 14, it says, but the people's mind were hardened, right? That's the veil, spiritual blindness. To this day, whenever the old covenant is being read, the same veil covers their minds so they cannot understand the truth. Why? Why is this saying this? This is another example for those that's not in this walk or in this truth, that want to come against the Hebrew Israelites or come against this true doctrine, that the Old Testament, when you read the New Testament, they're referencing the Old Testament, referencing the Old Covenant. And still to this day, people are spiritually blind. That is amazing. So again, it says to this very day, whenever the Old Covenant is being read, the same veil covers their minds so they cannot understand the truth. And this veil can be removed only by believing in Mashiach. And if we're reading the Old Covenant, oh, you guys stay in the Old Testament. Duh. To understand Yahushua, you got to go back to the Old Covenant to understand. And who was the Old Covenant for? Who did it pertain to? The Israelites. So Yahushua is coming to redeem those Israelites. Really those that believe. Those that once were away from the Lord. Yes, we all, especially in this time, fell away and was spiritually blind because we were Gentiles, in the flesh, in the state of mind. But if you was a believer in your past life, or if you are a believer in the heart, because the Lord searched the hearts and tried the reins and give every man according to his ways, the Lord is bringing you back to the fold. Verse 15, yes, even today, when they read Moses' writings, their hearts are covered with that veil. What's the heart? Your mind. So spiritually, right, your mind is covered. Basically, you're spiritually blind and they do not understand. But whenever someone turns to Yahweh B'Shem Al Shai, the veil is taken away. Right? But then, St. John 6:44, it has to make sense. Yahweh has to draw you to the Son, and the Son will raise you up. The Lord placed Yahushua in that spot for you to be drawn to him, for you to be raised up in the last days, to come back in a reconciled relationship with the Heavenly Father. This is all about getting back to the Heavenly Father Yahweh. Right? So the ministration of death is the law of Moses. Glorious, but temporary. This does not mean that the law is temporary, especially when it comes to the sacrifice, when it comes to the punishment. Those things were temporary. But brothers is not stoning the LGB. Brothers is not stoning all the adultery men and women, right? Because we're all adulterous generation, right? But all of those things was temporary. Now through Yahushua, we have a better covenant, right? Real quick, let me get Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 6. In the KJV, it says, but now have he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also is, Salaki, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. Better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. Right? It was faultless. Now when we even go to Hebrews 10 and 1, let's get it, verse 1. For the law having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never, with those sacrifices which they offer year by year, continually make the comer thereunto perfect. This was faultless, because those things wasn't going to make us perfect. For then would they not have ceased to be offered, because that the worshipers, once purged, should have been no more conscious of sins. Right? When we really dissect these scriptures, you cannot see that these scriptures is for the other nations. Yes, we teach the gospel four corners of the earth. The nations need to hear it too, because it's good news and judgment for the other nations. But first, Israel need to come back to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. You want to get that inheritance, man. You want to get that blessing. You want to get that glorified body, right? We have to come back to the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai that we turned away from. Now Yahushai came in. He is a perfect and better sacrifice. Right? Verse 3, but those sacrifices, there is a remembrance again made of sins every year. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and goats should take away sins. Wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he saith, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me. Yahweh Shai prepared Yahweh Shai for us, right? The old covenant is fading away, and only the elect under grace will endure to the end. That favor, and that favor is only for those that was predetermined, right? Let's get Romans, the 7th chapter, in verse 6. In the KJV, it says, but now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter. Reading verse 6 again in NLT, but now we have been released from the law, for we died to it and are no longer captives to its power. Now we can serve the Most High, not in the old way of obeying the letter of the law, but in the new way of living in the spirit. Now, a lot of people don't understand, but we would die because certain things you had to get put to death. And you have to think another thing too. We had to make sacrifices daily. Right now, what is a sacrifice now? And it's a spiritual sacrifice. Yourself. Starting with the men of the Lord, laying themselves down like a living sacrifice. And even more, what's more spiritual is that you get to mortify, put the old man to death daily. This doesn't mean you can start eating pork. This is not saying that. It's no verse deliberately saying eat pork. You have to really dissect these things, right? Romans 7:7, the KJV. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law. If I have not known lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet. Right? It says, but sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrote in me all manner of conception. For without the law, sin was dead. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived, and I died. And the commandment which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me. Wherefore how did it slew you? Because certain things that we have done, we will be put to death. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just and good. Was then that which is good made death unto me? The Most High forbid. But sin is the sin that got us put to death, not the law. The law, yes, it let us know what we can and what we shouldn't do. But if you do what you shouldn't do, it is consequences, right? But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might come exceeding sinful. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. Why? Right? Because the trouble is with me, for I am all too human. a slave of sin. How? Because of this flesh made to go off. Verse 15, for that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that I do. Right? This body is a sinful nature. It's a veiled body. It's bound to go off. And it's just like a child. You tell them don't touch the fire. When you're not around, it's going, oh, why they say don't touch the fire? The child don't know that it's hot. It just knows by word. So by action, the child go touch the fire and now they burn. Ha, ha, ha. Now they know. Right? All of us are short of the glory because we all fell to sin, being in this veiled body. Lord willing, that makes sense. It makes sense to me. It really does. Right? Hebrews 8:13 in the KJV. It says, in that he saith a new covenant, and he have made the first old, now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. Right? So the old is now out of date and will soon disappear. And guess what? Look at us now. Jake is not sacrificing. We're not stoning Jake for certain laws that they have committed. Certain kids that dishonor their mother and father would get stoned to death. If the priests, now all the 12 tribe men are priests now. If their daughter is a harlot, she was supposed to be stoned. By the power of Yahweh, sending Yahweh Shai, creating Yahweh Shai, putting him in this position just for us. Guess what? A lot of our children really missed a bullet just because Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai was thinking of the end game. Call Allah Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Right? Let's get Colossians 2:14. Colossians 2:14. And it reads, it says, blotting out the handwriting of ordinance that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. Right? Yahweh Shai nailed those things to the cross. Right? Now we get to fully come serve Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Right? By faith. Right? Israel is blinded even today unless they turn to Yahweh Shai. This shows that only the elect will see, while the rest are blinded, which we read, Romans 11:7. The veil, again, is the metaphor for spiritual blindness, Salaki, especially on the 2/3 of Israel. Right? Let's get Isaiah, the 6th chapter, in verse 9 and 10 in the KJV. It says, and he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed. And only the elect is going to turn and be healed, but the 2/3, their heart is hardened. Just like Pharaoh, right? Their ears is plugged, their eyes they can't see because it's too heavy. And it's a scary case because you don't want to be those that don't understand the way of Yahweh Shem Al Shai. Because then if you don't understand, you blind. It's so many Jake and all you other nations, you really don't even know what's going on. You super blind. Like you might as well call them spiritually retarded. Don't even know what's going on. This is St. John 12:40 in the KJV, real quick. Verse 39, it says, therefore they could not believe because that Isaiah, Salaki, if I'm pronouncing it correctly in the Greek, said again, he had blinded their eyes and hardened their heart. This is confirmation that they should not see with their eyes, nor understand with their heart, and be converted, and I shall heal them. Right? Well, what does this go with? 2 Thessalonians chapter chapter 2, verse 10 to 12, the strong delusion, Isaiah 66:4. The Lord did it. right? When you go into the NLT, it says, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, so that their eyes cannot see and their hearts cannot understand, and they cannot turn to me and have me heal them. Yo, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is the one that's doing it. If you can't get this in 2025, the Lord did it. He not dealing with you when it comes to this wisdom, knowledge, understanding, right? So when we just read 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, verse 7 to 16, right? Paul is letting this be known. The veil is only covered over the 2/3, but the Lord is sending Paul. The Lord is sending Peter. The Lord is sending the apostles, the prophets, the men of the Lord today on behalf of the elect, not for the whole nation of Israel, because all Israel don't have the vine, so like I said, the vine, the veil taken off. Only the elect, only the believers of Hamashiach Yahushai. Those are the ones that truly believe in Yahweh. So Lord willing, you understood this and you got this. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to the one true power, Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Amari Shalom to the hopeful elect scattered four corners of the earth, teaching this word and believing this word. Shalom to the Akwat Yom, believers in his faith and his truth. Lord willing, that you all continue to endure and be sincere in the same spirit and in sound doctrine. Lord willing, the Most High have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in the faith. Shalom, Shalom, Abba, Abba.